Hi, my name is Laura Cappelle. I am a critic. I primarily write about dance and theater, and I'm also an academic. I'm an associate professor with the Sorbonne Nouvelle University here in Paris, and I have a PhD in art sociology, in which I looked at the process of making new ballets today in ballet companies in 4 countries. As a writer, as a critic, I currently write for the Financial Times about dance and also for the New York Times. I've been their Paris, sort of their France critic since 2017. And I've worked for a range of other publications as well. I try to juggle sort of writing for a large audience in that way and also doing more sort of scholarly work and writing as part of daily life, let's say. So I started writing reviews sort of by accident professionally, in the sense that I think it started, I was very interested in dance already. I danced a lot as a child. I loved going to dance performances. And in the 2000s, the internet of that time had a lot of forums for people who enjoyed like a certain activity or a certain field. And there were a lot of dance forums that were very active at that point. We didn't have social media in the way that we do now yet. So I started writing, I could write in English. So I started writing about what I was seeing in France, but just for an audience of people on forums who I thought sort of might enjoy hearing about some of what I was seeing. And through that, I got a message from a dance magazine in the US, someone who had read my work, who asked me if I would be interested in writing about a show in Paris for them, because they didn't have anyone who could go in Paris. Through doing that, that maybe I could start writing for dance publications. That maybe there was an interest from some of them in hearing from a critic who could write in English in Paris, or a writer. So I started doing that, and it sort of snowballed over time, because initially it was something that I really did on the side as a passion project. And in those early years, I also spent a lot of time traveling around Europe, especially to try and see as many companies as possible, as many performances as possible, because I felt I didn't know very much. I didn't know enough. I wanted to learn as much as possible. So I did that. I spent a lot of time sort of traveling kind of at my own cost. I think that's definitely an issue for a lot of critics, is that you don't get paid much to do this work. But I really wanted to, so I did a lot of traveling, and slowly over time, sort of it built into more of a regular writing gig. I started writing for the Financial Times in 2010, and then sort of through that, writing more regularly about what was happening in France. Then they asked me to start writing about theater. So I also started reviewing plays, which I hadn't really done before that point. And then basically slowly it just became sort of more and more, and I found myself a critic, a full-fledged critic. So I think the more I do it, I think the more I think like what it requires first and foremost is humility. So that is, I think, what I've been thinking about over the past few years, is how to maintain that and be fair in relation to what you're writing. I think over the past few years, there's been more and more questions about who are we allowed to write about? Like, if there is a power differential, like, am I, as a white person, equipped to evaluate some productions that, for instance, relate to cultures that I don't necessarily know much about? And if I do, is it going to be damaging to the artist involved? I think a lot about that. I don't think there is one answer, because there are so few critics that it's true that you're working within a small group often, and that you're going to be asked to review things anyway, or else they just don't get written about, which is a real shame, I think. So yes, I think this is what has been most on my mind, I think, over the past few years, like how to be a critic with all of my individual characteristics and flaws, and make sure that I do right by the productions and the artists that I see, regardless of where they come from or their level of experience. So France has a long history of culture and of supporting culture, more like. In France, there is significant public support, public funding for the arts, which is an exceptional situation. We have to realize it. Like, I think sometimes when you're within that system, you also see what is getting worse or what are the issues within that system. But we have a very robust network of venues that host theater and dance, for instance, so performance more largely, a robust network of programmers, of people who support artists. There are ways in which you can get funding over time for work and make it more and more stable, hopefully. It is getting harder. There have been funding cuts that have been very difficult for the fields. But in that sense, I feel like I am in the country where there is almost sometimes too much to see, actually. Like that is what the government body said a couple of years ago, that we have too many performances in France, actually. That it's difficult to support them all and to give them all sort of like the space that they deserve to be seen. I think there is a lot of experimentation in France as well. I think that's related to funding, because if you have significant public funding, then you have more space to perhaps work on projects that may not feel commercial to start with, which are more sort of rooted in an attempt to further the art form or to go somewhere that might lead to something unexpected on stage. So I feel quite lucky in that sense. I think it is really difficult for critics here. I mean, we do have critics. We have fewer, I think, now than in past generations that actually derive a salary from doing this, from writing.
Mm.
There are new ways, like younger critics are trying to find their own way by also creating new online spaces and trying to find sort of sources of income that are going to work long term. We have fewer in dance than in theater, but we are still lucky that we have that ecosystem. Like, the real worry, I think, is maintaining it long time, and for critics, having the conditions or keeping up the conditions for people to last in the profession. That means for people to stay over an entire career and not just for a few years on the way to something else. Because people who stay in the field sort of build up knowledge over time. And it's very important to me to have people from different generations writing about the performing arts. So this is a little bit where we are, I guess. So first of all, I'm incredibly honored to be coming to Japan. Like, in October, I have never been to Japan. I'm so excited to see what a festival of that kind will be like in a city like Kyoto, to see how Japanese audiences react as well to shows and to have conversations with colleagues there. It's such an incredible opportunity to have that space for dialogue, because, again, since criticism is a profession that is pretty precarious, like, it's rare that we get that type of space. I think I just want to learn from the people that we're going to meet and from my colleagues who will be there as well from the European Union, to try and together, hopefully, find what is different about the way we practice criticism in different countries, but also what is similar. And if we have similar questions sometimes about what we do and how to do it in a way that is fair to everyone involved, hopefully. I don't know yet what that looks like in Japan or how those questions are being asked in Japan. So I cannot wait to be there and to experience a festival of that kind, and the people that I'm sure are around it and follow it. and work within it. Yes, that's it.